Thank you, Ed, for doing this for us.
My pleasure. Welcome to Rhode Island. And I think Governor Raimondo is going to begin with a few brief comments.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. By the way, the Western governors have really showed up in force here. I like this. Furthest traveled, you guys are here. Nice effort. Anyway, I want to first of all give a shout out and a thank you to our moderator, Ed Fitzpatrick. Ed is now at Roger Williams University, but prior to that was a long time, fantastic political reporter for our paper of record, the Providence Journal. So it's great to be with you this morning. I'm excited to talk about innovation with you all this morning. We have done an awful lot of work in my administration to make our state government more innovative. I would say we have a long way to go. As all of you governors know, it's not an easy thing. We have focused substantially around really trying to analyze the impact of programs and putting money where it works. And I want to give a shout out to the Arnold Foundation, who I know is here today, who has funded a lot of our work around impact work. So a couple of quick examples. We have looked at our anti-recidivism programs to figure out which ones are actually moving the needle, and we've stopped funding ones that we think aren't as impactful and doubled down on the ones that are actually working, spending no more money, significant or meaningful reductions in recidivism, looking at how we pay for food stamps. You know, right now, folks get paid once a month. By the end of the month, they're out of money. Maybe a simple change, getting paid twice a month, no more increase in spend, much better results for food insecurity. We also have a huge effort around lean, implementing lean manufacturing techniques in government, and have had great results around that. So, we are trying wherever possible to embrace innovation and bring it forward into the way that we run government. The fact of the matter is, budgets are tight. We're still in a deficit situation here in Rhode Island, so we have to do more with less. And so what we're trying to do is place a greater emphasis on actually studying the programs that have impact, funding them, and trying to defund where there is an impact, so with the same amount of money we can have greater impact in our services.
All right, so I'm going to ask a few questions to the governors, and then we'll throw it open to Q&A. Let's start with Governor McAuliffe. You've described cyber attacks as the biggest threat that faces the United States. So do you think Congress is doing enough to respond to that threat right now? And how can states facing budget problems reduce the risk of cyber attacks?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ed, and I appreciate you doing this. And I also want to thank Governor Raimondo. I want to thank everybody here from Rhode Island. This is a spectacular summer meeting. I cannot tell you how much the governors appreciate all the great work. So we give a round of applause to everybody from Rhode Island. We thank you for the great work you've done.
Thank you, Terry.
Cyber, obviously, for governors is one of the biggest challenges. Our responsibility is to keep our citizens safe. Part of that is keeping the personal information safe. There are some states that have had breaches before. I know Governor Herbert has dealt with it in Utah, South Carolina. We're an easy target. We have more information collectively than the federal government has. All the driver's license information, state tax information, all of our health information. So a lot of the international cyber hackers are now trying to get into the states. Last year in Virginia, I had 78 million cyber attacks. In fairness, 40 might have been serious, but we were able to stop those. But they clearly were trying to get our data and then use that to hurt the citizens of the Commonwealth. So this is a crisis. We all know what's happened internationally in the elections and so forth, but it goes on every day. We, the governors, have been briefed in private meetings with the FBI. They will tell you there are so many attacks a day, don't get recorded, that people are actually paying ransom today, Bitcoin and others, or health providers just saying, we'll just pay it because we just don't want to get into this. So it is a huge issue. Is the federal government doing enough? No, they're not. Congress is not. In fact, Governor Sandoval and I have been up to the Hill. We've met with the leadership. There is no committee today in the Congress on cybersecurity. It is spread, it's diffused among many different committees. Folks won't give up jurisdiction. We need a dedicated committee that deals with cybersecurity. They've undermined our democracy. They're trying to steal our economic data on a daily basis. And it's going to take funding, because you're right, Ed, many states don't have the resources to deal with that issue. We need a national template. We, the governors, now have done it. I want to thank the NGA, the best practices. And our cyber team, we now have got all 50 states up to a level where we need basic protections, but the federal government has to step in, because every single day, we just saw a bit of it last year, every day it's only going to get worse.
And I know Virginia is one of the few states electing a governor this year, so what could states do when it comes to cyber attacks on the electoral system?
Yeah, great question. And we did this in 16. We're very proud of our electoral system. We have we worked with the Department of Homeland Security. We ran tests in Virginia. We are doing that again. We have actively reached out to the federal agencies to say, come into us here in Virginia, let us do tests, let us look at the data. And Karen Jackson is here, who is my Secretary of Technology. We, as a state and our state agencies, we do our own protections to make sure we have the most protected system in the country. We do spend millions of dollars in Virginia on this. We're vulnerable. We have, as you know, the largest naval base in the world. We have 27 military installations, the Pentagon, CIA, Quantico, all in Virginia. So we have an added layer of responsibility because of the intelligence and defense assets that are in our state. So we work very collectively with the federal agencies.
Governor Raimondo, you joined 3 other New England governors, both Republicans and Democrats, in committing to meet the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement after President Trump announced he was withdrawing the United States from that agreement. Is this an issue that should be addressed on the state level as opposed to the federal level? And what would you say to governors who question the science of climate change?
Well, it ought to be addressed at both levels, but the reason I did that is because, in my view, if we're not going to see the level of leadership out of the federal government that we'd like to have, it puts an extra burden on the states to lead and step forward. So, you know, this is obviously one of the greatest challenges of our time, and it has to be attacked at every level, federal to the state level. Here in Rhode Island, I've set a goal to say that over the next few years we're going to increase our renewable energy production by 10 times, and it's an aggressive goal, but we're going to hit that goal. It's 1,000 megawatts of clean energy, which is a big number here in Rhode Island. We're the home of North America's first and only offshore wind farm. I'm incredibly proud of that, and we are supporting that. In fact, I guess you won't have a chance, but those of you who are here, it's a beautiful sight to look out into the Atlantic Ocean and see these wind turbines. It's gorgeous, it's clean, and that happened because of collaboration. That was a very controversial project at the time. Everyone from commercial fishermen to tourists on Block Island didn't want it. We pushed through that, and now we're a national leader to have America's only offshore wind farm. We've pushed forward with net metering to enable easier and more collaborative solar installations around Rhode Island. Solar is an excellent, relatively cheap form of renewable energy here. So, you know, we're committed to it. And by the way, it creates a lot of jobs. So one of the fastest growing areas of our economy in Rhode Island is in the green economy. We were projected to grow those jobs by 17%. Over the past year, we grew by 40%. These are good jobs. These are family supporting jobs, a lot of them in the installation related to energy efficiency retrofitting. But it's not only the right thing to do, it's a necessary mandate to meet the challenges of climate change, I would say. We're in the ocean state. We're uniquely vulnerable here in the ocean state. Tomorrow night, you'll be in Newport. You'll see how lucky we are to have the ocean. We have to meet the challenges. Right. And by the way, it's a great job creator. So here in Rhode Island, we're all in, and I know many of my other governors who are here agree with that.
And just a quick follow-up, I know Elon Musk is going to be at this conference, so would you like to see Rhode Island become a training ground for self-driving cars? And if so, do you think they'll do a better job than Massachusetts drivers? I don't know if the Governor
I'm
Baker
very
said
happy that Governor Baker isn't here for me to answer that question. Absolutely. You know, I have embraced new innovative business models since I became governor. You know, we've been very hospitable to Uber and Lyft and, you know, changed regulations to enable that. Very hospitable to Airbnb, changed regulations and tax policy to enable that. And I would love Rhode Island to be a leader in self-driving vehicles. As to the quality of drivers, I'm not going to touch that one.
All right, Governor Sandoval, a recent...
My husband thinks Rhode Island roads are safer now that I no longer drive myself.
Governor Sandoval, a recent Fed Scoop article stated that over the next 10 to 15 years, the emerging technologies of today will completely reinvent entire industries. But it also said that if the quote, "what is past as prologue bears any truth," the government will largely miss out on those changes, many of which will be hugely beneficial for large enterprises like federal agencies. So do you agree with that statement? And if not, what specifically can state governments do to harness emerging technologies?
No, and thank you, and good morning, everyone. Governor Raimondo, I also appreciate the hospitality of the Rhode Islanders. We've been treated extremely well. Governor McAuliffe, always a privilege and honor to serve with you as your vice chair. Before I get into that question, I really wanted to compliment Governor McAuliffe on his initiative with regard to cybersecurity. I think it's one of the biggest challenges of our time. I know that he was an inspiration to me in Nevada, and I sponsored and was able to pass legislation to set up the first cyber defense center in the state of Nevada. And truly, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and we looked very closely at what happened in Virginia and adopted that in the great state of Nevada. But with regard to your question, it's essentially a teaser to what my initiative is going to be as the chairman of the National Governors Association. You know, I really believe that we're in the midst of some of the greatest technological changes of our time. The governors across the country have to be willing to see those changes, see the future, embrace the future, and shape the future. So you mentioned autonomous vehicles, and that's something that, you know, we governors are always very competitive, but I like to say I was the first governor to ride an autonomous vehicle, and rode an autonomous vehicle in Nevada, and I was in the Google car, and they said, "We can't believe you got behind the, you were willing to get behind the wheel," and I couldn't believe that they let me. But in any event, in Nevada, we have embraced autonomous vehicles and are one of the leaders in the country with regard to testing. We're going to talk about drones and their applications in Nevada. You mentioned Elon Musk as well, and I'm very pleased and proud that he's agreed to speak on Saturday, and I'd encourage you all to be here tomorrow to listen to him speak. Tesla is in the midst of building one of the largest, if not the largest, advanced manufacturing center in the world, right outside of Reno. It's several million square feet as we speak. They will be building, or they're developing, or making batteries, and they're developing as many lithium batteries, or producing as many lithium batteries than the rest of the world combined. They're developing the energy storage out there, which is going to have a massive change. And you know, the governor talked about renewable energy, but storage is the next big thing. I mean, it's one thing to be able to generate renewable energy, but you can only generate it when the wind's blowing or when the sun is shining. And this storage will allow us to be able to store that renewable energy and use it at peak times. So as governors, I think we have to be willing to see what is happening with regard to technological changes. Things are moving extremely fast. And as governors, we can't accept the status quo. And I think it's important, as you'll see throughout this initiative, what the opportunities are.
All right, very good. So at this point, we're going to open it up to questions. If the governors join us at the podium, if any of the governors would like to come up, that'd be great. I think you could go up there, yeah. Go ahead up. I think so, yeah.
Questions from them? You want us to get up?
Is there a mic for the press? Okay. This is the time for the press, if they have any questions. And if there's a mic, I think, for...
Good morning. Adam Powell from the University of Southern California, and we are in partnership with the NGA on a cybersecurity research project. A non-technical question. The Secretary of State of a major state not represented on this panel approached us and said, we need to secure our voting and election systems by the end of this calendar year. But oh, by the way, we have no money. So where will the resources come from?
Well, and I think all the different governors would agree that we've got to make sure that our voting systems are as secure as possible. We in the Commonwealth of Virginia, we fund that ourselves constantly doing checks on our system, updating our data. I disagree with this idea that there's this massive voter fraud that's gone on in this country. There is no evidence of that. We have no evidence of that in Virginia. That's why I was the first governor to come out and say, I will not hand over our personal data of our citizens to this commission. We don't have voter fraud. And there's nothing more important than protecting the individual data that you have in your state as a governor. And we take that very seriously. I always make the point that, we have men and women wearing the great cloth of our country, fighting for our basic freedoms and liberties, and we need to protect that voting data to prove to the globe that we are the greatest democracy. The federal government has put some programs together. We have worked very closely with the NGA, with the Department of Homeland Security, and other federal agencies to get grants to bring back down. As we talk about on cyber, we at the state have done a very good job, but I have cities and counties, about 140, that we need to make sure that they're doing the same things that we're doing at the state level, or as I say, someone can get in through a back door. This is the beginning of a process. I'm proud of our team, Jeff and Tim, who've done a great job in our cyber center here. We now have the basic protocols up for all of our 55 territories and states, but we need to make sure that we're now going deep, because the point I always make in cyber protections, you're only as strong as your weakest link. If we're doing a great job in Virginia and another state is not doing anything, and we have the same healthcare provider, they will get into us through the back door of a healthcare provider or some other provider of information to the states, and that's why we take this very seriously.
Question for Governor Sandoval. Does the competency of the current controlling party in D.C. make your life more difficult, and if it doesn't, can you say something that would inspire confidence for tech and business leaders?
I didn't hear the first part of your question, so if you'd repeat that, please.
Does the competency of the current controlling party, does it make your life more difficult? And if it doesn't, why can you tell the tech and business leaders why they should be confident about the future?
I think I understand your question, but as an organization, and I think I can speak for all the governors, is that the new administration has reached out to me often with regard to issues, so I appreciate that. Meetings like this, we have the opportunity to interface with the respective secretaries. I had a meeting with Secretary Kelly yesterday talking about Homeland Security and those things, so I expect as an organization that we will continue to work with the administration, and also as fellow governors, we have the opportunity to do that on an individual basis. So I have complete confidence in that. Obviously, we may not agree on things, and there will be disagreements, but in terms of access, I think it's as good as it's ever been. Mm-hmm.
Hi, John McDade, RI Future. In terms of making innovation happen at the state level, how important is it to have an organization or a person like a chief innovation officer responsible for making that happen?
So, in our case, I have appointed a chief innovation officer in Rhode Island, and that has been incredibly helpful because he has a very small team, but all he does all day, day in and day out, is figure out ways to be innovative throughout state government. I will say what we're doing in Rhode Island is innovation has to become the way you do your job. It can't be compartmentalized into one office. So while I think it's important to have a leader in that effort and someone who gets everybody together and shares ideas, the only way this works is if everybody spends a certain % of their time working on innovation-based projects, and so that's what we've done. We actually have what we call an innovation cohort, and it's a group of people in every department tasked with coming up with innovative ideas. And so far, not only have we had good results, it makes it exciting for people to go to work. Prior to getting into public life, I was in the investment business, I was in the startup world, and we're trying to bring a little bit of that attitude, urgency, innovation, not being afraid to fail, try new things to state government. And it has been very important to have a leader, but really we're trying to change the culture so it cuts across all areas of government.
This poor guy's got a question. He's been very patient.
Sorry, Governor Sandoval. Obviously, Elon Musk has a wide range of interests. Could you talk a little bit about how you got him to come here? And do you know generally, I mean, is he hoping to talk with governors about dealership franchises or solar or anything more
Well,
specific?
I appreciate the question. The question is, how do we get Elon Musk here? And I'm not going to tell you because then everyone else will want to do it as well. But no, Tesla has made a significant investment in Nevada, and they are doing cutting-edge things out there at their new Gigafactory. You know, I'm not going to steal his thunder, but I think he's going to talk specifically with regard to my initiative, Ahead of the Curve. And he's going to be talking about these disruptive technologies with regard to the vehicles and renewable energy. And I would imagine he's going to talk about SpaceX as well. It's going to be incredibly exciting, and this is a visionary that we're going to have the opportunity to hear firsthand from. So I'm truly looking forward to his remarks and very honored and humbled that he would take the time to speak with the fellow governors and all of you and lend his thoughts to what his view of the future is.
Great. All right, thank you. Beautiful.